December 2020, the Game Awards. Everyone is horribly upset over The Last of Us Part 2 winning basically every category it was nominated for. Game of the Year, Game Direction, Audio Design, Innovation and Accessibility, Action Adventure Game. Even Laura Bailey won Best Performance for her role as Abby. Though, if you ask me, she wasn't even the best performance in the game, and that totally should have gone to Ashley Johnson. The only categories it didn't win in was Best Score and Music, which rightfully went to the Final Fantasy VII Remake, and Best Art Direction, which went to Ghost of Tsushima. There was only one other category it won in that I have yet to mention: Best Narrative. The Last of Us won out against 4 other games: Hades, a game I haven't played so I can't really comment on the story; Ghost of Tsushima, a game with a really good story that I ultimately don't think should have won; the Final Fantasy VII Remake, a game with a more divisive story due to all the changes it made to the original and its desire to tell a separate narrative of its own; and finally, a fairly unknown game by the name of 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim. Developed by Vanillaware, creators of games such as Odin Sphere and Dragon's Crown, and published by Atlus, it was arguably the least known game nominated that was not a mobile game, an indie game, or one of those games nominated in the Games for Impact category. So, what was the deal? Why is it being nominated for the best narrative alongside these other giants? Let's start at the beginning. Starting back in 2013, Vanillaware founder and game director George Kamitani was wrapping up development on Dragon's Crown when he... No, I'm not gonna do that, no. Okay, so I'm gonna let you guys in on a little secret. Unlike my previous selling you ons, I'm not gonna go in depth on the gameplay or the development history of 13 Sentinels. Buy this game. Play it. Please. 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim is a one-of-a-kind game that deserves to be played. And the reason I'm not gonna go too in-depth on it is because I want you to go in knowing as little as possible. Every piece of footage I show you in this video is taken from a trailer, so the only spoilers you have to worry about are the ones Atlus and Vanillaware were willing to advertise the game with. 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim is a mix of a beautiful side-scrolling adventure game, a visual novel, and an RTS. The game splits itself into 3 sections: Destruction, Remembrance, and Analysis. Destruction is the real-time strategy portion of the game, where you fight one large battle with the game's titular 13 Sentinels. This singular battle is split into multiple parts, all of which take place at the end of the game's story. Remembrance is where the story proper happens. You pick up one of the 13 playable characters and play out their story. Analysis is a glossary that documents important characters, concepts, events, and items. It also contains a detailed timeline of the game's narrative, helping you keep it straight and understandable, as Remembrance tells it all out of order. I'm gonna get this out of the way. The weakest part of the game to me is Destruction. It's not bad by any means, it's just not what I love about it, nor is it what you should play it for. 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim is an absolutely phenomenal piece of non-linear storytelling. To me, the real game is figuring out what exactly is going on with this world. What's the deal with these characters? What are these Sentinels? How does everything fit together? It's all so incredible. But the truly remarkable thing is that it's coherent and makes complete sense. Each character has their own unique story that makes all of them memorable, each drawing from all different kinds of sci-fi. Godzilla, E.T., Terminator, Macross, War of the Worlds, The Girl Who Leapt Through Time, Total Recall, Short Circuit, and so many more. It's like a celebration of sci-fi as a genre, and it uses this celebration to tell 13 stories that all interweave into each other. While you might be able to predict certain plot beats due to the massive list of influences, this is somehow still a game that left me blown away with twist after twist after twist. I never felt like I knew where the story was headed outside of what was going to happen in the current scene, and it's incredible how it all works out in the end. I genuinely wonder how much time was spent planning out this narrative. On paper, this reeks of convolution, overcomplexity, and frankly, a completely unintelligible mess. I might lose a lot of you, in fact, I know I'm gonna lose a lot of you for this next comparison, but I don't care. 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim feels like the game Zero Time Dilemma was trying to be. If you know, you know. If you don't, go play the Nonary games after you play 13 Sentinels. Now, there are some issues with the game. As mentioned previously, while the destruction section isn't bad, it's not great either. It's perfectly serviceable for what it's trying to do, and it's totally worth getting through to see the full game. However, the developers clearly intended for you to jump back and forth between destruction and remembrance regularly, with both having locks that require you to make progress in the other mode to keep going. The way I played, I did nothing but story until I had to partake in combat. Ultimately, it kinda made combat tedious for me because it's just not what I cared about. Not to mention, there's a lot more of it than I was expecting. This is easily avoidable. You don't have to play hours of it at one time. It just did somewhat harm the overall experience for me. Just make sure you're regularly bouncing back and forth, and this shouldn't be an issue at all. Another issue is specifically with remembrance. Sometimes the game will simply feed the narrative to you, while other times it's much more open. It encourages experimentation and exploration in order to discover certain story scenes, and 97% of the time, it's a ton of fun. However, there were two frankly frustrating moments where the game requires very specific choices and inputs to be made. One of them I eventually figured out myself, but the other I had to be told what to do, and it was just maddening. But honestly, that's it. I only have those two problems. Everything else is just fantastic to me. A game doesn't have to be perfect to be a masterpiece. The music is great. The English dub is phenomenal, especially considering it was all recorded during the beginning of the pandemic and was done entirely remotely. The graphics are absolutely beautiful. Each character is fascinating, and if I haven't made this clear enough yet, the story is fantastic. As I'm writing this, part of me is a little worried I might be raising your expectations too high, and it might result in those I convince being disappointed in the end. It doesn't matter how good something is, because if someone's expectations were too high, it can still lead to an underwhelming outcome. Everything I've said thus far is 100% my honest-to-God feelings. I love 13 Sentinels, and I want as many people as possible to experience what it has to offer. But I'm also going to ask you to go in with tempered expectations. Not because I don't think the game can reach the highs I've been promising, but because it will help prepare you to enjoy this game the same way I and so many others have. I didn't play it until a year after its initial release on PS4, and in that time I had it hyped up like crazy for me. Yet it was still able to surpass it and go so much farther. Just play this game. If you like sci-fi at all, 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim is utterly stellar. I just can't say much more than that. As of the uploading of this video, you can play 13 Sentinels on the PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5 through backwards compatibility, or Nintendo Switch. The PS4 version of the game first released back in 2020, while the Switch version was released in 2022. There are a few differences between the two releases, however. On the Nintendo Switch, there are a few additional attacks added to the destruction mode, but outside of that, it's the exact same game. In terms of performance, both run basically the exact same. The load times on Nintendo Switch are faster than the PS4 version, and are only about a second or so slower than playing the game on the PS5. I say weigh your options and pick the version that best fits what you want to do. Wow, how about that? A selling you on that's a reasonable length. That's new. Anyway, thank you for watching. Please subscribe and leave a like. Check out my Patreon. Check out 13 Sentinels. I love it. I love you. I'm Mr. Frog. Hello. I don't know how to end this video. 13 Sentinels absolutely should have won Best Narrative.
ユーザーさんに対するメッセージとしては、このゲームは買わないとダメだと思います。理由は、バニラウェアという日本の宝のような会社をですね、存続させるためにも一本でも多く 売れる必要があると思う。僕他の会社のゲーム売れようかどうしようがアトラスが潰れても全然構わないんですけどバニラウェアのゲームだけは日本からなくしちゃダメなんでみんなで買いましょう。これよろしくお願いします。はい。